It might surprise some of you based on the plethora of Muppet videos on my channel, but I actually didn't grow up watching The Muppet Show. That being said, it would still be a lie to say that my childhood was not impacted by the Jim Henson Company. Not through The Muppet Show, but through a different television program. One that was designed specifically for children, Bear and the Big Blue House. Bear and the Big Blue House was a children's television series that aired on Playhouse Disney from 1997 to 2003. The show ran for 4 seasons with a total of 117 episodes. In 1997, the Disney Channel decided to redo their structure to better compete with channels like Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network. Keep in mind that Disney Channel was originally a premium channel and it had only just recently made the switch over to being on cable. The change in structure made it so that shows that were aimed towards the preschool demographic would air in the mornings on something called Playhouse Disney. Playhouse Disney is now called Disney Junior. Disney knew that older kids would be at school during that time, so the idea was that airing shows that were aimed towards kids who are too young to go to school would cause more families to tune into the channel during school hours. In order to fill the new time blocks, Disney started greenlighting shows that would fit into the new target demographic, one of which being a children's puppet show titled Bear and the Big Blue House. The show was developed by Mitchell Craigman with the Jim Henson Company for Disney Channel and was designed to teach basic lessons to preschool and early age children. It differed from other educational programs at the time that tended to focus on teaching children things they would eventually learn in a classroom, like the alphabet and counting, by instead focusing on teaching life lessons. Each episode follows Bear, the main character, as he helps the audience navigate topics like feelings, sharing, bedtime, nature, etc., with help from the other residents of the Big Blue House, and eventually in later seasons, residents of Woodland Valley as a whole. Bear and the Big Blue House had a consistent structure that carried over throughout each episode. The show would start with a greeting from Bear, which eventually led him to searching for a specific smell, only to press his nose against the camera and claim that it was the viewer all along.
Ooh, tell me, do you have your pajamas on? 'Cause you smell like clean pajamas.
The episode would quickly introduce the theme and use Bear's relationship with the other characters as well as short musical numbers to help demonstrate that theme. There was typically a short break to meet with Shadow, who would sing a popular children's song or tell a well-known children's story, as well as a short segment where real-life kids would give their thoughts on the episode's main topic. Each episode would end with Bear meeting with Luna the Moon and reflecting on that day's events, before singing the all-too-popular goodbye song.
Come and play. Bye now.
Bear and the Big Blue House immediately gained a reputation for being a wholesome, calming children's show. It didn't rely on bright flashes or loud noises to keep the viewers engaged, but instead created a gentle and nurturing environment filled with characters that genuinely cared for each other and the world around them. This was a big contrast from other louder, flashier children's shows that were airing around the same time. Bear and the Big Blue House was also praised for not talking down to children, but still using language that was easy for them to understand. I have incredibly fond memories of growing up with the show. My parents bought DVDs of the show, so I would watch it on the TV all the time when I was little. We actually still have all of those DVDs, and I dug them up from my basement, and that's how I was able to revisit them. But yes, I absolutely loved the show, so let's talk a little bit more about it. Like I said before, one of the best things about Bear and the Big Blue House is the lovable characters. It is made very clear through how these characters interact that they all care very deeply for each other. The Blue House is portrayed as a healthy and nurturing family environment. And that's not just shown through how they interact as a unit, but how all the characters interact as individuals. Bear would serve as the show's main character. It was his job to oversee the Big Blue House and everyone who lived in it, serving as a mentor for both the characters and the audience. Bear was often described as being laid back with a warm and caring personality. He's never shown getting angry and seems to have an unlimited supply of patience for the people around him. The show as a whole would be positively compared to Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, and Bear specifically would be compared to the one and only Mr. Rogers, and it's not hard to see why. Both are nurturing mentors, both greet the viewer privately and directly at the start, both use calming voices without talking down to children. Bear was also praised for being the anti-Barney, which, believe me, was a compliment. People hated Barney. He was a loud, childlike character who was quite frankly annoying, while Bear was a more quiet, adult-like character, not connecting with kids by acting like one, but but acting like someone viewers could trust. A mentor figure instead of a peer, someone viewers could learn from. It was actually Bear's puppeteer who suggested he use his real voice, something that is not common within professional puppetry, so that he could better match the tone of a real grown-up, as well as use a voice that, quote, didn't make you want to gouge your eyes out. Bear would be played by puppeteer Noel MacNeal, who had appeared on shows like Sesame Street, Eureka's Castle, and Dinosaurs, usually as small background characters.
I also realized that I didn't say this while I was filming, but it's really important to me that you know that he was also the pretend spirit in You on Kazoo.
It's me, the pretend spirit.
With the Kazoo Kid.
Who are you?
Wait a minute! Who are you?
He had plenty of experience doing professional puppetry, but no character quite as popular as Bear.
So I actually went in that morning to audition for another character. I got a call from Henson saying, please come back, because we want you to audition for this other character. I went in, and then I realized, wait a minute, it is 4:45. This is a courtesy. You're not gonna get this. So I just said, forget it. You know what? I'm just gonna have fun. Come Monday around 6 o'clock, just shy of 6 o'clock, that's when I got the call saying, no, like, you got the part.
Bear was designed similarly to a Big Bird puppet, meaning MacNeal would be inside the puppet operating it with his full body. Puppeteers place their legs inside the legs of the puppet, use one hand above their head to operate the puppet's mouth, and use another one of their hands to operate one of the puppet's hands.
There was a tiny little string, a monofilament, that went up through a little ring in his neck and came down the other side to the right hand, which was stuffed. So whenever I moved this hand, this one would move automatically, especially when he was dancing.
Bear also had a mechanism within the head that allowed MacNeal to operate his eyebrows. Inside the puppet was a small monitor so that the person operating the puppet could see what was going on around them. The monitor would show what the audience would see at home, so the puppeteers had to learn how to perform while viewing themselves in third person. Not to mention that the screen flipped, so they also had to learn how to work in reverse. There was also a microphone within the puppet so that dialogue could be easily picked up and recorded. Bear was the biggest and arguably the most complex puppet for Bear in the Big Blue House. The puppet was 7 feet tall and 45 pounds, with the inside sometimes getting as hot as 92 degrees. Though MacNeal claimed it was actually quite comfortable and easy to move in. And aside from the head, as long as all of the technical pieces and microphones and monitors were removed, the Bear puppet was actually washable. An inner layer would be sent to a special costuming laundromat, and the fur itself would be washed by the Jim Henson studio. MacNeal still works as a puppeteer today, and he continues to make Bear content on his own that's not associated with Disney, using a live hand puppet that was gifted to him. You can follow him and view some of his content on TikTok, Twitter, and Cameo. Most of the other puppets would not be nearly as complex, but they were still just as important when it came to bringing the show we know and love to life. There was Ojo, the bright orange bear cub, performed by Vicky Kendress Ebner. I apologize in advance if I pronounced that wrong. You might know her through her work with Sesame Street, The Wobulous World of Dr. Seuss, as well as some other non-Jim Henson puppetry projects like The Book of Pooh, which was another Playhouse Disney special. There was also Tutter the Bright Blue Mouse, performed by Peter Linz. Peter Linz has been working with the Jim Henson Company forever. And Sesame Street, he has been playing Harry Monster since 2015 and Ernie since 2017, as well as many, many other parts. In Muppets from Space, he did the puppetry for Miss Piggy, with Frank Oz providing the voice. And most recently, he has helped develop the character of Joe the Legal Weasel, who was first introduced in Muppets Now. His most popular character would probably have to be Walter, who was introduced in the 2011 Muppet film. In Bear in the Big Blue House alone, he played multiple characters, but two of the most common of which were the reoccurring roles of Tutter the Mouse and Pip, one half of the Pip and Pop dynamic duo. Some other characters include Trilo, a brightly colored lemur, and Pop, Pip's almost identical cousin, both performed by Tyler Bunch. Bunch went on to work with Sesame Street in a variety of background and one-shot roles, his most popular of which being Louie, Elmo's dad. He's also worked on projects like Between the Lions, The Book of Pooh, and Ooby. Bear in the Big Blue House also had certain characters that were voiced and puppeteered by two separate actors, something that is not common within the Jim Henson Company or within professional puppetry in general. 99.999% of the time, the puppeteer and the voice actor are the same person. But for Bear in the Big Blue House, that didn't necessarily always apply. These included roles like Shadow, voiced by Tara Mooney, Ray the Sun, voiced by Gregory Holder, and Luna the Moon, voiced by Lynn Thinpen, all three of which were puppeteered by Peter Linz. One unexpected outcome of the show's popularity was how well it was received by autistic and other neurodivergent children. It was one of the calmest and quietest shows on children's television at the time. Other children's programs relied on loud noises, flashy lights, and bright colors, all of which, when combined, caused many neurodivergent children to be overstimulated. Bear in the Big Blue House, on the other hand, was quiet and sincere, and therefore was a much better sensory experience for children who didn't like the overload of noise and lights in other programs. Bear in the Big Blue House was a calm show. It's what it was known for, and it was one of the biggest selling points behind the program as a whole. Bear was calm, he was patient. He didn't talk down to children, but understood that their feelings and curiosities deserved to be taken seriously. The characters said what they meant and weren't afraid to explain things that might seem obvious. I wanted to give some of my neurodivergent viewers an opportunity to share some of their thoughts and experiences about Bear in the Big Blue House, and I got some really great responses. I feel like Bear in the Big Blue House is one of those quintessential children's shows that doesn't get nearly as much attention as it deserves, at least compared to similar shows like Sesame Street and Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. It's probably one of the first shows I remember watching that really helped shape younger me's outlook on life and the world, and for that I'm forever grateful. I watched Bear in the Big Blue House as a small child. I wanted to be Bear because he knew how to exist good, always ended up knowing exactly how to fix whatever problem was happening, and seeing him on TV made me feel okay. I wanted to be able to do those things and make people feel just as okay as the goofy bear puppet suit thing made me. I'm pretty sure I still have a Bear in the Big Blue House board book lying around somewhere. It was the one where it had Bear's nose on it, and during the book there'd be times where you pressed it and it made a really satisfying sniff noise. I pressed the heck out of that nose. It was the best stim ever. Growing up as a little kid with autism that went undiagnosed for over a decade and a half, I didn't have good ways of expressing myself and how I viewed the world. However, I have memories of relating to Tutter and being able to communicate that Tutter was like me. Also, I think seeing one of the episodes about Tutter getting injured or something helped me when I was around 4 and broke my leg and couldn't communicate how scary and sad it was at the time and didn't really understand what was going on. Afterwards, I did, and I could communicate it. Bear in the Big Blue House was one of those shows I watched as a kid that felt meshed with me. It made sense when a lot of things were weird and confusing to my little child brain. So yeah, it was a really important show to me as a kid, and I'm really happy that I've had it growing up. MacNeal realized the importance of having a quiet and calming show on children's television, something that has been even harder to find since the end of Bear in the Big Blue House. He started working on a new project called The Show Me Show, and part of his intention is to create what Bear was for so many kids, but for a new generation. Bear in the Big Blue House gave children a place of comfort. It was a show with healthy and calming family dynamics and characters that deeply care for each other. But of course, it would be a lie to say neurodivergent children were the only people impacted by the program. Disney had a hit on its hands. With the popularity of the shows, Disney realized they could profit even more off of the characters if they brought them to the Disney parks.
And then because of his popularity, Disney was wondering if the show would be popular in the park. Actually, I was wondering if the show would be popular in the park in terms of like a ride or some sort of attraction. So I normally would go down for New Year's. And I said to Peter Van Roden, who was an executive at Henson at the time, and I said, I'm going to be down for New Year's. If you send down Bear and a Wrangler, let's see if it's popular. Let me do a little meet and greet. And he's like, are you sure? And he's like, yeah, go for it.
For guest appearances at various shows, events, and parades. MacNeal knew he couldn't rely on the cameraman knowing how to film and shoot a puppet, so for the first time an eye camera was added to a walk-around puppet. Quote, so the Jim Henson Company developed a camera in the eye. So for those shots I had a camera in the left eye and a matching glint in the other one. Basically, it was like if you put your right hand over your right eye and made a tube with your left hand and put it over your left eye, like half binoculars. That was the vision I had. So for those shows, I would have 2 monitors. I would have the monitor giving me the feed of what you see at home, and then I would have the monitor showing me my actual vision. Bear used the eye camera for interviews and guest appearances on talk shows. With the success of Bear as a walk-around character, Disney wanted to test the waters when it came to live performances. A short 18-minute stage show titled On the Road with Bear was developed. It served as a mini touring show show, performing in 10 malls across the United States in 1999 to huge success. People loved Bear, and the mall shows did nothing but prove to the Disney company that a Bear in the Big Blue House live show was possible. A live production for the Disney parks went into development almost immediately. The production was titled Bear in the Big Blue House Live on Stage and ran from June of 1997 to August of 2001. It featured characters directly from the show and followed a similar structure to the television series, including some of the show's more popular songs. Actors from the television series would pre-record audio for the production, and a new team of puppeteers would be trained to operate the puppets live. They were trained in how the puppets worked, as well as how the characters would move, talk, react, dance, and more. The show would be located on Soundstage 5 in MGM Studios and quickly gained popularity. In 2001, Disney expanded the show to Playhouse Disney Live on Stage. The Bear characters were the opening and the closing, with the human host and Tutter being the tying thread throughout the whole thing. Puppet versions of characters from a bunch of different shows would teach Tutter how to get over his shyness. The Bear characters would make their last appearance on the show in January of 2008, and eventually the whole show was rebranded when Playhouse Disney was rebranded to Disney Junior. Around the same time, a series of Bear in the Big Blue House stage shows started touring the United States. These included Bear in the Big Blue House Live Surprise Party, which was based on the episode Mouse Party and toured in 2001 and 2002, and Bear in the Big Blue House Live, A First Time for Everything, which toured in 2002 and 2003. Bear in the Big Blue House aired consistently from 1997 to 2003 before going on a 3-year hiatus. There were many speculations on the cause of the show's sudden stop in production. Many fans cited the tragic and unexpected death of Lynn Thinpen, the voice of Luna, who had passed on March 12, 2003, shortly after the end of the last season. That, however, was simply a rumor, and multiple cast members have addressed it.
The tragic death of my friend Lynn Thigpen had nothing to do with the ending of the series. We did 4 seasons, and that's it. Lynn Thigpen died after the show wrapped. Sometimes things just end, unfortunately. We'd like to look for a bigger reason, but sometimes things just run their course, as this show did for Disney Channel. But it is nice to know that some things do live on in our memories and in our hearts. And I'm so glad so many of you still enjoy memories of Bear and his friends.
More likely, the show had simply done everything it needed to do and didn't feel the need to continue. A short spin-off series titled Breakfast with Bear would air from 2005 to 2006 with a total of 20 episodes.
Have you got some time to spare? Come on and have breakfast with Bear.
The show followed Bear as he visited the homes of real children and learned about their morning routines. And it would be the only time new Bear content would be featured on Disney Channel during the hiatus. In 2006, Bear in the Big Blue House would return to Disney Channel one last time, as 8 additional season 4 episodes were aired. Reruns would continue to be shown on Disney Channel until May 6, 2007. In 2008, Bear was removed from stage shows in the Disney parks, and his presence in the company would fade away. As far as I know, Bear in the Big Blue House isn't available for streaming anywhere, including Disney+. There are multiple episodes within the series that are considered lost pieces of media because they're no longer aired on television and they were never released on DVD. The reason Bear in the Big Blue House isn't on Disney+ is still a mystery. The series is owned by Disney. There's a possibility that the reasoning could be the same reason that it took so long for the Muppet Show to be on Disney+, which is that Disney owns the show but would still have to pay for the music. Apparently there have been copyright issues with Playhouse Disney as a whole, which is part of the reason why there are so few shows from that era on the platform. It's also possible that the company just doesn't think Bear in the Big Blue House is popular enough to be put on its streaming services. It is possible to request that certain shows be added to the platform, and there was a petition that went around at some point, but neither of those things have seemed to cause any impact. And Disney has remained silent about whether or not the show will ever make it to its services. As of now, we may never gain access to Bear in the Big Blue House for reasons that remain unclear. Revisiting Bear in the Big Blue House was like meeting with an old friend. This show feels like childhood to me, and while I remembered bits and pieces of it, and I remembered how it made me feel, I wanted to use this as an opportunity to talk to my parents about their thoughts on the show. I learned that I almost never got the name right. I always called it Blue Bear in the House. I learned that my favorite characters were Pip and Pop, though now I would say I'm definitely more partial to Tutter and Bear. And I remember having small figurines of Ojo and Pip and Pop and a stuffed animal of Bear, all of which I definitely still own. I just couldn't find them in my basement for the life of me. But those were my opinions as a small child. What about now? Well, it would be a lie to say that I didn't love every minute I spent revisiting the show. It was just as calming and as peaceful as I was hoping it would be. Bear was kind and patient, the music was fun and heartwarming. I've always been partial to children's shows, and I don't think people should have to stop watching things they enjoy because they've quote-unquote outgrown it. And sure, part of this is probably nostalgia, and part of it is that I use this as an opportunity to revisit parts of my childhood, but I still stand by the fact that this show is really good. It teaches children really important lessons both directly and indirectly, and I think there's something to be said about watching such a healthy and caring family dynamic. I love Bear in the Big Blue House. It's wholesome, it's fun, it makes me happy, it makes me feel like a kid again. It makes me sad that there isn't a place where it is accessible for wider audiences. It makes me sad that the show has been forgotten, and it makes me sad because this is such a big part of my life growing up. I think Disney Plus should put it on their platforms, but that might just be me. I loved Bear in the Big Blue House. I loved revisiting it, and I strongly encourage that you do too.
Come and play. Bye now.
Thank you guys so much for watching. This is the first video in a series where I'm going to be revisiting some of my favorite puppetry and Jim Henson projects. I'm currently working on research for many videos. It's a little stressful, I will say. Bear in the Big Blue House meant a lot to me growing up, and I would love to hear your thoughts on the show, how it impacted you, or any fun stories or memories that you have. It's just a really good show. I'm really happy I revisited it. This was a great idea. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in next week's video. Bye!